You're listening to the T21 podcast, brought to you by Down Syndrome Group of the Ozarks. Our mission is to bring life and wellness to families who are advocating towards a community of inclusion for individuals with Down syndrome. Hello and welcome to the T21 podcast. My name is Chloe Jones and this is Amy Bowler here with me. Here on the T21 podcast, we explore topics that are relevant to the Down syndrome community in 21 minutes or less. And today we're going to be talking about the topic of setting routines. But first, before we get started, I wanted to invite you to like this video and subscribe. And if one of these topics resonates with you, feel free to send it to your family and friends. We want to get this out to as many people as possible, and you can help us do that. Alrighty, ready to get started?
Let's go.
So routines are so important for people with Down syndrome. Just the sameness, the repetition, the comfort, and knowing what's going to happen and what's next is very comforting for them and really helps with behavior. And even here at Upside Down Mercantile, we have a checklist that we follow, and we have different things we do to help with just being in a new place and having that repetition and sameness to grow in comfort. Amy, do you want to talk about some types of supports that we use to help with these schedules and routines?
Yeah, so routines and schedules happen just about in every part of your day, right? And so it could be that they're happening at home, it could be that they're happening during the school day, it could be that they're happening, at work or wherever. And so it's really important to provide visual supports or auditory supports to help establish those routines in each one of those environments. And so several types of visual supports. You could do a visual schedule, which could include either just words or picture icons, or both. You can do a whiteboard with a checklist written on it where they can just check it up. I love that. You can do calendars, you can do charts, you can do, for auditory, you can do timers, you can do alarms, just kind of whatever works specifically for your kiddo. And sometimes you might use one type of visual support or auditory support and realize, hey, my kiddo doesn't respond well to this.
And that's the purpose of listing all of these, just so you know that there's other options. Like if you've been trying a whiteboard and it is not working, maybe try a little light that turns on
right
when certain things happen, or their phone setting alarms. I know.
And sometimes just asking them, what would you like your visual support to look like, or what would you like your auditory support to sound like? That can be super helpful in the moment.
I love that. That reminds me, at Upside Down Mercantile, like I was saying earlier, where we're filming today, we have a few individuals that work here that follow checklists to help throughout their work day. And one of them loves BTS, and she will set alarms on her phone. If I say like, hey, I'm gonna drink some coffee in a little bit, she'll set an alarm and be like, at 12 o'clock, you're drinking coffee, and BTS will play. So that just shows how she's kind of organized that in a way that works for her.
So I love that that's your break time, right?
Yep, exactly.
That's awesome.
Yeah, she puts me on track with that.
That's awesome.
Well, something that's really important is having routines for school and certain events that are coming up, and how do you prepare for those using these types of supports?
Right, so school is around the corner, but honestly, routines should be kind of established and used year-round. I know that everyone says, oh, we got to get back into the school group, right? And that's super important, but for our kiddos, consistency is key, right? So morning and evening routines are really important, and I use a routine every morning. I use a routine every night. My morning routine, might be getting up and taking a shower and brushing my teeth and fixing my hair and waking up the kids. Our kiddos have a morning routine too. They get out of bed, they put their clothes on, they do all these things. And so to take out the kind of uncertainty of what a morning looks like, it's really helpful if they have a list or a schedule that says, okay, first I put my clothes on, then I brush my teeth, then I brush my hair, so that they know that they've gone through the whole routine. Also, setting up routines for events, right? Every event looks different, and so sometimes we have to allow some flexibility within this, but if they're having a same type of event occurring regularly, so like school assemblies or going to lunch in the cafeteria at school, or maybe they play a sport, or maybe one of their siblings plays a sport and they're gonna go participate in that activity, going to church, right? Like all these things are events. There's a lot of people involved.
Yeah.
So kind of setting up a routine of like, how are we gonna get there? Where am I gonna sit? How loud is it gonna be? If they know those things ahead of time and they practice those things ahead of time.
Expectations for even how they're physically going to maintain themselves.
Right, yeah. It just kind of decreases that anxiety that comes with the unknown, right? And brings it back down. And routines are typically pretty structured, but throughout our routines, we have to allow for some flexibility because things happen, and sometimes you just don't have the 2 hours to do the routine, right? So sometimes you have to scale that back, and things might have to move quickly. So even though routines are, you reach independence by creating them and by following them consistently and by having structure, it's important to allow for that flexibility within those routines.
Yeah.
So you don't create a really rigid individual.
What would that look like? So back to kind of school, events, morning, night. What about hygiene and medication? What about those types of
So
things?
hygiene, I think, needs to start really early, right? So everybody eventually has to become independent in their hygiene, if they physically can, right?
Exactly.
So hygiene can start with our itty bitties, like giving them a toothbrush and letting them put it in their mouth. So they may not do it right the first
They
few
may
times.
not like it at all.
They may not like it at all. Because of sensories. But getting that started, if you're, twice a day, getting it started in their morning routine and their night, okay, you woke up, first thing that we're gonna do is go brush our teeth. And so that they know that that's gonna happen, but they also know there's an end to that task. So if it's a task that really is not a preferred task and it's a sensory overload task, they're gonna know I have to do this every day, but if I just do it, I'm gonna be beyond it, right? It's not gonna take my whole day to do it.
Yeah.
So it's really important to establish those morning routines so that they can be prepared for the school day, because if they get up and it's chaotic, then by the time they hit the bus or hit the school doors, they're already stressed for the day, and it sets them up for a really negative start to their day. I'm like that if I'm rushed in the morning.
And also read your child. If you get them up in the morning and they're ready to go and ready to start their routine, or just very energized, then you can kind of match that. Now, if they're already kind of I don't know about this, calm your voice. Maybe show some pictures of what we're gonna do. You can make it as basic as possible.
Right. But then after they've mastered the first skill, add a second skill. And then you're gonna look for accuracy of the skill, right? So before they can move to the next skill, they have to master it. So if the first skill is brushing their teeth, you've got to be checking that they brush their teeth correctly, that they actually brush their teeth.
And you can praise them whenever it's not there yet.
Oh yes, for sure.
That's so
you're
important.
Almost there, just a little bit further on this. But showering's a big one, right? Showering has a lot of components to it. Not only does it have washing your hair, but it has washing your body. And for our older kiddos, shaving might be involved with that. And so it's really, really important to teach them each one of those steps, right? And that they all are a collective unit. And that when they come out of the bathroom, if they are not clean, that we send them back. Because a few times of doing that, they're gonna realize if I just do it the first time, I'm not gonna get sent back in, right? So medication, same thing, right? We can teach our kiddos to medicate themselves independently, however that needs to look. I have a child that's on medicine. He's 11 now, and he's been taking his own medicine since he was 8. And it started off as, us just having to hand him his pill, and watch him take it. And then it moved to us setting it on the counter. And then it moved to us putting it in a little medicine cup on our kitchen counter. And now we do put it in the medicine cup still for him, just because I want to make sure that it gets in there. But and he's only 11, right? But he knows when his feet hit the floor in the morning, the first thing that he does is goes into the kitchen and he takes his medicine. And then we have the visual cue of the medicine has been moved, it's gone. And so we know he took it for the day.
And that shows like you're also using a specific location.
Right.
So medication is taken at this place.
Yep. And at this time.
Yeah.
Right. It's consistency every day.
Or with lunch.
Right.
It comes in a little baggie with you. Packed with your lunch.
Right.
Right when you wake up, whatever that looks like. You mentioned that structure and flexibility can coincide.
They can. I know that's hard to believe, but they really can.
And that really just takes a lot of patience and a lot of preparation and just a lot of time.
It does, because
it can take a long time sometimes.
We sometimes get stuck in this circle of wanting to create such a structured environment that when our kiddos get older and may have a change in teacher or a change in employment or a change in staff, if they're having staff come to the house, that they don't have the flexibility to handle that. And so it's really, really important that within our structure that we create some flexibility as far as like it doesn't have to be exact, right?
Yeah.
So one example, and Chloe has used this here as well, but we have an individual that we made a checklist for, and he thought that he needed to go straight down that checklist every day. Well, one day we were working and there was a lot of people in the area that he needed to vacuum, and so he wasn't able to vacuum at that time. Well, he was having a really hard time because that was next on his checklist.
Very confusing.
It was very confusing, and so we did a one-on-one, and we went in and we looked at the checklist and we identified the things that he could do without vacuuming, and so moving down that list. And I think Chloe has actually scrambled her list to make it where, hey guys, like, the list has to be done, but in no particular order.
And I really stress that. It's kind of funny to see them, because whenever they first started working with me, they'd be like, okay, got the first one done, next is this. And I'm like, actually, we're gonna jump down to the bottom, because this is really important right now. Like, look how dirty that window is.
Right.
So that really helped them, I think, like, okay, when I'm at upside down, I'm not following this strict, rigid schedule. It's gonna be flexible, because we do have customers coming into the store, and we can't be mopping when there's people coming in, because that's the next on the checklist. So but also, like, that's kind of set, that they know when they come in here, we aren't going to follow this strict schedule here specifically. That
These
doesn't
things
mean
need to be done.
You can't follow it other places.
They need to be done, just not in order, right?
Or not even all of them have to be finished, and we're here to have fun. So they can coincide, but it does take time. So
it does take time, and it does take a lot of time. But just remember, as they've mastered things, that's when you add the flexibility. Don't add it until it's been mastered, because that will create chaos.
And they will take so much pride in knowing those things. One of the girls that works here, she takes her medicine every day during lunch, right when she eats, and she eats at the same time every day. She has an alarm that goes off. She has an alarm on her phone, but she also knows, like, there will be no clocks around, and she's like, 5 minutes to lunch. You are on top of this. But because of that, she knows that she takes her medicine at this time, and that is so helpful. And if there is a disruption, whether we had some customers in that she was checking out, and it's kind of stressing her out because she can see on our clock on our checkout scanner area that it's 12:05. That can be really stressful for her if we have a line of customers. So how does that look like if there is, or what does that look like if there is a disruption in the routine? How can you kind of get them back on schedule, or even just calm them down a little bit?
I think just a lot of self-talk, and just a lot of like, hey, you're doing a great job. It's okay. Sometimes things happen and we can't do things exactly as they're planned, but that's okay. If you can even do that in the moment, so you can anticipate that that's going to happen because you see these people walking in. Maybe you head it off before it even gets there and say, hey, like these people are walking in and we can't take a lunch until they're gone, so you're probably going to take your medicine a little bit late today, but you're going to be just fine.
And if not, we see people walking in, I'll let her go out to the back a little early.
Right.
So yeah, that's good.
So I think just if you can anticipate it, then head it off. If you can't, then just walking them through that, like, hey, it's gonna be okay, like things happen, and we just gotta roll with it. We just gotta roll with it.
I said I love that because one of our guys that works here, whenever I say, I think that your bus is running a little late picking you up, and he goes, I think that's all right. I think I'm all right. I'm like, yeah, you're all right.
You're all right.
So he already does that for himself. So that's really good. Well, to wrap this all up, obviously routines, I mean, we've stressed this a lot in this episode, that it takes patience and it takes consistency. And if you're a parent that is working on setting routines, whatever time or age that you're in this walk with your child, just know that it all takes time.
It takes time.
And it'll all come too. So, well, Amy, do you want to, in 30 seconds, just give one last thought that you would tell parents that are listening?
Yeah, for sure. So Chloe just said it, but consistency helps to decrease behavior, right? So if we're doing things over and over and over again, we're going to reach independence a lot faster, which then creates pride, and pride creates a decreased behavior. So if you're struggling with a kiddo that is just overwhelmed and maybe flopping or eloping, maybe try to figure out what maybe the cause of that is and set a routine around that, right? And eventually those behaviors should decrease. And so the consistency, just be consistent, create the independence, reduce the behavior. Those are the kind of the key factors of this.
Yeah, so good. Well, everyone, thank you so much for joining us today and learning a bit more about setting routines for individuals with Down syndrome. I have links in the description below that go over a lot of what we talked about today, as well as in the video notes. But we will see you guys next time. Bye. If you would like to learn more about Upside Down Mercantile, you can go to shopupsidedown.com or visit us on Commercial Street in Springfield, Missouri. If you have a topic you'd like to know more about, you can email them to info@dsgo.life.